Hello, everyone. I'm Lorraine Nowlin, facilitator of WDIUSA's Black Women's Caucus, and I have here with me Ms. Lyons. She is a writer and a historian. She earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from Iowa State University, and she's a 2021 Best of the Net nominee. She's an engaging speaker and fierce advocate for women and girls, and that's why I'm always excited to dialogue with her. Aja, thank you for coming on. So, you've spoken a lot about and presented a lot about concerns regarding women. You've also presented specifically about misogynoir, which I love hearing you speak about because you have so much wisdom. So I'm just wondering what led to your awareness that advocacy is needed in this area, whether it's just for Black women specifically or women as a whole.
You know, uh, Thank you so much, Lorraine, and thank you for all of your work and your kind words. And honestly, it's women like you I see doing the work. Um, and to be frank, it's also the disrespect I see for women like us,
Yeah.
regardless of whether we're, spending our days, regardless of
Hmm.
whether we adhere to respectability politics or not.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether it's, in our own communities, when we visit other communities. I just see Black women being degraded.
Yeah.
And even when it comes to other aspects of womanhood, that layer of Blackness just really
Hmm.
reshapes the focus, the lens, the narratives.
Hmm.
And so I believe people should speak to what they know. So I
Exactly.
think there's something to be said for lived experience, but there's also something to be said for research. Um,
Hmm.
and so um, I think where that lived experience come in is maybe figuring out other questions to ask that others
Hmm.
might not consider. And
Yep.
so I was seeing cycles in my own life perpetuated
Hmm.
from hundreds of years ago. Narratives that
Yep.
I thought weren't mine,
Hmm.
narratives that I was perpetuating unconsciously. Um, but listening and learning, and some people, lack the self-awareness, or some people just, if you've never heard a story, it might sound like gibberish to you.
Yep.
And so, because I'm a writer, because I'm a historian, because I am nothing more than a glorified, overeducated storyteller, I wanted to be able to tell a story, tell our stories, in a way that, people could, if they were willing and open to receive them,
Hmm.
but also so we
Exactly.
could hear each other, hear ourselves.
Hmm. Right? And we all know that respectability politics does not save us, no matter how much, women or men thinks that it will. I'm curious. You know that gender identity ideology and its harms is a big point of advocacy for Women's Declaration International USA and the organization at large. So I'm just wondering, how have your views on gender identity evolved over time? Have you ever personally experienced any distress, or what might be your history with that ideology?
So, I am in my mid 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
I came of age in the 90s and 2000s. Well, child in the 90s, came of age in the 2000s. And, gender nonconformity had its place. People who identified as transsexuals or transvestites had their place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even in the gay community, LGBT. The LGBT was the acronym and is.
Yes.
That's the only acronym I acknowledge. LGBT, I acknowledge LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yet the boundaries were different. And I say that because there were actual boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
There were women's groups that have been meeting for decades who, they decided to let some men who called themselves women in to a meeting or two, and they felt they dominated the space, and they said, "No more men. We're just not doing this
Yeah.
again." And and nobody called them crazy maniacal bigots. They just accepted it.
Mm.
Um, Likewise, in youth groups or certain spaces, you'd have a small number of, especially compared to today, but no, seriously, literally just like one to max three.
Mm-hmm.
Four would be like, where are they all coming from? Um, and spaces for homosexuals and bisexuals.
Right.
And those words weren't dirty either. I started coming out as young as 11 back in
Mm-hmm.
2001,
Oh.
but I'd say really became active when I was 14 years old, 14, 15 years old, um, 2005, really. Not
Mm-hmm.
just socially, but also politically. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, which, I mean, there were literal sodomy laws on the books,
Mm-hmm.
in the 2000s even.
Wow.
Very rarely, they were still there. And so people could be ugly. But anyway, so back to gender identity. So there was a lot of gender nonconformity, and there were even people who identified as trans, but there was
Mm-hmm.
still a line, there were still boundaries. And yes, as at least for me, when I first realized I had or I wanted people to know, like, hey, this is who I am, I
Mm-hmm.
decided to put on this whole super butch face.
Mm-hmm.
I shaved my head. I had a taper fade. I had a bald
Yeah.
fade. I did the whole stud. And the word stud is only for
Yes.
black women. That is
Yes.
only for black lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the whole stud persona thing
Right.
um, for a good 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
A good 2, 3 years. And so eventually I realized, I could be me, figure things out without
Mm-hmm.
having to put that on, but it felt like a rite of passage.
Right.
It was freedom from the constraints and demands of femininity, but also me expressing my sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
with still some boundaries. Like I don't need to like run around screaming, I like to no, but just, this is who I am, this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a calling card to, hey ladies, if you're interested, you see me right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I am so glad that, the blessing, yet the homophobia, and I experienced gross, disgusting
Yes.
homophobia, but also acceptance from like adults who would seem to say, I see you. I was at a choir performance and I had on like a
Okay.
full flannel and jeans. I had the dress we were supposed to wear on over the flannel and
Okay.
hiking up the dress so people could still see, my masculine attire underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And a teacher comes to me and says, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. Do you have another pair of shoes? Can you just put on the shoes we need you to put on?
Right.
Like, we see you can do you, but for right now, for this time and performance in this choir you signed up for, just
Mm-hmm.
just do the thing, sing, and then you can go on about your business.
Right.
And I think that's what we should be telling children. Like,
Exactly.
you don't need to be drugged up. Like you want to do your little thing,
Mm-hmm.
not hurting anybody. We're good with that.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? You're a lot young, maybe a decade or two younger than I am, but I remember early or no, late 80s, early hip hop, early 90s hip hop culture. It was the norm for women and girls to wear baggy jeans, big bulky shirts, just like the guys. And it wasn't a question about, that's unfeminine or that's masculine. The men and the women, dress the same way, based on that hip hop culture, like Moni Love, MC Light. I don't know if you've seen pictures of them in that era. And it's just amazing how just a few years later, if you dress like that, maybe you're not really a woman. Do you feel a certain way? I don't want to get too much on me, but I'm wondering, was there maybe any other incident or case that was like a catalyst, like, oh my gosh, this is a problem, this ideology is a problem that you might want to mention?
I think when we started seeing the prevalent for me,
Hmm.
when people started saying that lesbians needed to be open to quote unquote trans women, to men and
Hmm.
their penises.
Yeah. Rape culture.
It is. It's rapey, but
Hmm.
also, I mean, linguistically, it's insane and illogical. Everyone knows that a lesbian is a female
Yeah.
homosexual. They
Yes.
don't want anything in the neighborhood of penis. And
Hmm.
no, um, sex toys are not the same thing. And a man is a man.
Right.
Even if you remove his penis, he's still a man. We would
Yes.
never say to, soldiers who've had their
Hmm.
penises blown off from IEDs, oh, you're now something else. You're now trans.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then also children. I will say
Hmm.
I initially fell for the propaganda with Jazz Jennings,
Yes.
whose birth name is Jerron Blashinsky, that
Hmm.
poor sweet boy who's been
I
mutilated.
know.
I
Horrible.
see the ABC specials with Barbara Walters, but even then, with the first special, Barbara Walters said, these procedures, even the hormones, will,
Hmm.
completely sterilize him. And
Hmm.
I think we all we I think everyone across the world has seen little feminine gay boys, but or little feminine boys,
Yeah.
who 4 or 5 years old, they're little princesses and sassy. We never said that they needed drugs and surgery.
Hmm.
We just all knew they were more
Right.
than likely going to grow up to be gay or a little sassy, and that's
Hmm.
okay.
Right.
This pressure to do something when I saw the gay community become more about drugs and surgery
Hmm.
and um, a million labels for things,
Right.
instead of saying, hey, this is who I am and how I show up, and I just don't want you to beat me up.
Right.
It'd be
Exactly.
great if you could
I feel like
support me,
human
but just
beings.
don't beat me up.
Hmm. Why? And then all of a sudden things just changed. And I'm wondering if anybody like really just pinpointed what happened that shifted from, just being gay or lesbian to now we want to change, our body.
And I
Wow.
I think what we really saw, because I mean there was always a small number of people who felt that they were just so masculine that
Hmm.
clothes and hair didn't cut it. They were just so
Hmm.
feminine, the wig and nails just wouldn't cut it. And
Right.
they sought out medicalization, or they sought to
Hmm.
fully live their lives living stealth, where they
Hmm.
pretended they were the opposite sex. But again,
Right.
it was small. They also were fully aware that they were not, living in material reality. They were
Right.
hoping to find people who would play along with it.
Hmm.
Um, but there wasn't this gross demand.
Wow. It wasn't. It wasn't.
No.
Somebody's benefiting from all of this.
Woo!
Wow. So speaking, well, going on to the next topic, are you open about your views? And if you are, how has that impacted you socially, professionally? How has it impacted you?
I am blatant, direct, open, and it's not one of those things where I go around, screaming every 5 minutes, you know, no one is trans is nonsense. But I use accurate language. I avoid using the terminology of trans ideology. I do not use the term trans. I don't announce my pronouns in pronoun circles. I still use the words homosexual and bisexual. I hold a line, particularly linguistically. Um, and yes, I post on social media. And when it comes to in real life, particularly with dating, I'm upfront.
Yes.
Um, and it has affected me terribly. I feel like tides are
Wow.
turning, but unfortunately, people who are unwilling to date me, or they might initially give it a try and they're like, nope, can't do it.
Mm.
And,
Wow.
and,
It's
and,
really that bad. Wow.
it's really that bad. I've gotten the whole, you hate trans people, especially trans women. I'm not out here calling for death and rape threats the way, these so-called trans activists are. Like, I've
Exactly.
never wished harm on anyone. Um, I'm not willing to pretend the sky isn't blue,
Hmm.
the grass isn't green.
Right.
Um, I've had, peers, um, no longer end our friendship, who don't want to work with
Hmm.
me. I've had people belittle me in writing workshops
Wow.
and attack me in writing workshops. I've had people, stop speaking to me. I've had
Hmm.
people kind of encourage that I should be elsewhere or shouldn't be in certain spaces. I've had people disinvite me,
Hmm.
or sort of, exclude me from places and events and gatherings and such. Um,
Wow. Just because you believe that men cannot get pregnant. I mean, we have to be honest. It's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it really is that plain and simple. It's just, I support people expressing themselves as they wish, but we have to hold the line linguistically and we have to hold
Hmm.
the line for spaces. I mean,
Yep.
and if the boundaries erode to a point where there are none, people are going to get hurt even more than they already are.
Yes.
And how
Yes.
ridiculous is it that we have to go all the way to the Supreme Court to say boys shouldn't be in girls' sports, men
Hmm.
can't be in women's sports? The, the fact that this is how it was taken to the Supreme Court,
Yep.
it is an embarrassment to this country.
It is. It's a shame. It's an embarrassment. It's almost like we're living in the Twilight Zone. It's an embarrassment.
It is. This is worse, I feel,
Hmm.
than um back in I mean just the Middle Ages,
Hmm.
the Dark Ages. Like those people had an excuse. They didn't know
Yep.
where the sun went at night. They didn't know about, bacteria.
It's like we have this strong delusion now. Oh my gosh. And speaking of holding the line, you submitted a piece to Nowlin, great writer, just all around, just a very, very talented woman. The anthology Holding the Line. She holds the line, excuse me. And I noticed the title of your piece is Holding Truth on the Loneliest Night. I mean, that just struck me. That's such a powerful title. What's the story behind that title?
I really wanted to speak to, I think so many trans rights activists, trans ideologues see gender critical people, especially women, as
Mm-hmm.
just these nasty, mean women who hate effeminate men.
Yes.
Um, and we're not. I'm
Exactly.
certainly not. I'm a woman who wants love and
Hmm.
friendship and belonging and connection just like everyone else. And it's really not about excluding or hating anyone. It really is about inclusion
Yeah.
because if a space does not have, defined boundaries, it's not serving any particular group.
Right.
And so I really wanted to speak to how I've been excluded simply because I speak and support material reality and all that that means, and
Mhm.
how hurtful it's been that
Right.
I have been shunned and excluded, and what it's meant, what I've lost,
Hmm.
publishing opportunities.
Yes.
I know there's money I've lost out on, there's friendships, there's lovers, um, and it
That's terrible.
hurts. It hurts. People talk about how, trans people are suffering.
Hmm.
I don't believe any man who has the ability to just put on a suit and go live
Hmm.
in the world of white male privilege is suffering.
Exactly. Exactly. But they would have us believe that they're suffering more than Black women, Native American women, probably even, Palestinian women. This world, I swear. Um, by the way, to our listeners, if you'd like to get a copy of the book, we will have the links just below. Um, I noticed in the piece that you were particularly disturbed by other mothers who attempted to shame you for your belief. Mothers. Why do you think it's important for mothers to hold the line against this dangerous ideology?
Oh my goodness. I mean, we birth and raise the world. We are the future. We literally hold the world in our hands, in our bodies.
Mhm.
And um, women create connection, men create disconnection. I
Mhm.
mean, yes,
Yeah.
people can take on different, parental roles, social roles, but ultimately,
Hmm.
it's women who create and sustain connection and men who create disconnection. And with gender ideology, you primarily have men in
Hmm.
makeup, wigs, and dresses creating disconnection from families and parents. This whole "I'm your mother now. This is your new family. The gay
Yes.
community family now."
The fairy
And it's
god.
like,
Yes.
wait a minute. Um, and no, and if you look at, again, the gay community in the 90s, 2000s, it was people trying to find a way for families to be accepting of their children and for
Hmm.
their children to see like, hey, your parents love you. They're just, trying to figure some things out. They're stressed, they're scared for you. But ultimately, you're supposed to keep children with their families,
Hmm.
with their parents, and you figure out how to help things come together, how to help people communicate. You don't
Right.
tell people you don't tell children if your parents don't, say this or do this
Right.
exactly as you want. You cut them out and then go
Hmm.
move in with strangers who are
Exactly.
going to give you drugs and surgery. Like,
Oh my gosh. Exactly. This is exactly what they're doing, and it's frightening.
it's dystopian, it's abusive, it's pedophilic, it
Right?
is predatory.
Pedophilic, yep. Hmm. Speaking of backlash and speaking of black women holding the line, I'm very curious. When it comes to the backlash that you received and the support that you have received, is there a racial dynamic to it? Like, for example, have you received more support from black people, less or more from white people? How is there a racial breakdown, or is it really just it doesn't matter?
I'm not really sure. I will say that I feel it's mm, backlash is about equal. The more
Hmm.
institutional backlash from white people, the more social backlash. It's
Hmm.
honestly all, unfortunately.
Yes.
Um, but the honestly, I've had, and I think it's just because who's more dialed into this than anything else.
Yes.
So for that, white people. But even then, it's
Mm.
still quiet. It's still, emails, messages, maybe
Wow.
one-on-one conversations, but it's still, in my Facebook DMs, like, yeah,
Hmm.
I had this experience too, with,
Right.
former partners who trans and that were severely mentally ill. People don't talk about
Right.
this. Um, but a lot of gay people, gay couples, have had a partner who's went trans, and that partner had borderline personality disorder, major depressive disorder,
Oh.
so many ailments. And we don't talk about this because, gay people will be seen as anti-trans, blah, 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 and then get
Hmm.
kicked out of the gay community and are never partnered again and never have any friends, no community. But
Wow.
I definitely feel that it seems across the board for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Right, that's something. I have noticed I guess maybe more white people supporting it, and almost everybody black that I know does not. No, they're not open about it. The only time I see black people supporting it, or maybe like the few in the activist world. But again, as you mentioned with some of your experiences, people will say things privately, but they're afraid to say, to challenge it out in the open, and that's got to change. That's got to change. And speaking of being afraid, have you ever had any experience like something really disturbing that you wouldn't mind sharing, or any type of intimidating experiences that you don't mind sharing, or
Um, There's been a couple.
mm,
So, I was really active in just community when I lived in Iowa. Loved Iowa. Iowa is home.
yes,
And I was friends with all kinds of people, but most of my friends were white women on the left.
yes,
And when I started speaking out about this, sharing about Kira Bell and
mm-hmm,
children,
yes,
who'd been drugged up and had surgeries and said, they regretted it, that, people shouldn't do this, or God, at least wait
mm-hmm,
until you're an adult. Um, and I had so many so-called friends calling me
mm,
this horrible, transphobic, evil bigot. And it's like, wait a minute, I am sharing these
mm-hmm,
people's stories. These are their stories. This is truth.
mm-hmm,
I guarantee no one would put their personal business on blast like that if
exactly,
there wasn't something just ghastly going on. And no one said anything about, hurting trans people. It's just these people sharing their stories. And
yes,
I had 10-year-long friendships and I had one woman post publicly, calling for all of our mutual friends to unfriend me, block me, this is that and
gosh,
the other. I mean, people who'd been in my home, I'd watch their children, they'd watch my
wow,
son. Um, I mean, who were there for me when my ex-wife died.
Wow.
helped me clean out her apartment. I mean, we're talking like people who showed up for me and I showed up for them and just
Mm-hmm.
totally cut me out, cut me off, and said I was just this horrible, ugly person. Um, let's see another one. Uh, at my university now, so I'm an academic and school is home
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yep.
Um, so I'm kind to everyone. There's all kinds of people in academia, but a lot of blue-haired,
Mm-hmm.
gender-loving people.
Yes.
And I don't believe in antagonizing anybody, so I would not antagonize them.
Right.
Um, but they would like unfollow me on Instagram. Um,
Interesting.
and when they would see me, they would give me ugly looks.
Oh my
I
God.
was at a an award ceremony, induction into this English Honor Society, and this
Mm-hmm.
one woman who I used to be really friendly with, and this other woman who pretends she's a man,
Right.
staring me down something ugly. And I'm just like,
Oh my gosh.
I've never said anything unkind to either of you, to anyone.
Talk about
Um,
hateful.
and I'm just like, and then yeah, this one poetry workshop, again, I did not attack or name call
Right.
anybody, but I wrote a piece about a women's land event I'd gone to, and so and I shared this piece by this woman,
Mm-hmm.
Hannah Simpson, and it was basically just, say the word woman, talk about
Right.
talk about womanhood. And it wasn't, again, bashing trans people, but it was clearly
Mm-hmm.
like we ain't with this. We're not doing this. Um,
Wow.
and that was attacked. A piece I wrote about the two Oakland lesbians that were murdered and their son,
Yes.
um,
Yes. I remember hearing about that.
uh, by the man who calls himself Dana Rivers, David
Yes.
Warfield. And
Mm-hmm.
that was seen as an attack against trans identifying people, even though
Oh,
I did not
even
state that this person was trans. I did not state his name. But it's violence against women and our children
right.
by these men, and that does not change because a man puts on a dress and calls himself a woman.
Right.
All men are potentially
Right.
violent and dangerous threats to women and our children.
Right. And even when they are brutal, just horrific, evil murderers, they're still given victimhood status. And that is really, really frightening. Really, really frightening.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Um, I know it is extremely frightening.
Hmm.
It is so terrifying, but in the words of Mary Kate Delvey, I need women to be braver.
Yes. Yes.
We need women to be braver. And I know it's scary. Put a taser in your purse,
Hmm.
something, but hold the line. And it doesn't, they're gonna hate you anyway. That's something I can, because I kind of went back and
Yes.
forth, teeter-tottered, half-stepped for a while there. But I realized they're going to hate me whether I
Hmm.
half-step or whole step.
Right.
They're going to notice that I didn't give my pronouns and call me a hateful turf. Well, I might as well say, yeah, and sex is binary and immutable.
Yep.
And realize
Wow.
that you're not being hateful
You're
or
not.
hurtful. Um, these people, and I have such compassion for these people because I have struggled with mental illness. I have struggled with delusion. I
Yes.
have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So for me,
Mhm.
I am constantly fighting to not relive 1996 to
Mhm.
2000, which is when I experienced horrific,
Yes.
immeasurable trauma. And so I
Yes.
have to fight to stay in reality. These people, for whatever their reason, are choosing to try and escape from reality or to live in some made up reality. And it's sad and it's unfortunate. But to
Hmm.
help these people, you have to show them this is reality and it's safe. No one should beat you up because the clothes you want to wear,
Right.
how you want to wear your hair, or what name you want to call yourself. But you're still the sex you were born as,
Hmm.
like every other person.
Yes. Yes.
You are like
Yes.
every other person. You are one of us.
Yep.
And you cannot reframe, restructure anything to change that.
Right. We can't, no matter what, cosmetic procedure we have, we cannot change that reality. And, we really have to make sure that we're not afraid because just remember this. Imagine if every uh activists, civil rights activists back in the 40s, 50s, 60s was afraid, where would we be now? If those fighting the Revolutionary War, whatever opinion we have about that time, if they were afraid, where would we be? So
Yeah.
let's get rid of the fear. I agree with Mary Kate on that. Um, so to our wonderful listeners, you can read a lot more detail about Aja's story in She Holds the Line. Black Women Speak on Gender Identity Ideology. And the links to purchase the book is below. And also we'll have information on where you can find more of Aja's work linked below as well. Thank you all for listening. Have a great day.